Anyway, everybody welcome. My name is Doug Slocum. I haven't had a chance to meet you. I have the honor of being the president of the Michigan Air and Space Forces Association, so welcome to our March meeting. For those who got the invitation, apologies. We had a little IT link problem when we sent out the invitation this time around, so I'm glad that you all persevered and were able to get here. Just starting off, I mean, there's a lot of things we can talk about today. Obviously, we're going to talk about the Medal of Honor. That's our theme today. But there's also been a lot going on in the news, and I don't know why that picture I found kind of captivating. If you don't know that story, 3 F-15E Strike Eagles were shot down by a Kuwaiti F-18. Let's call this friendly fire. That investigation is going to be interesting, but the backseater of one of the Strike Eagles, that was her. She was being approached by Kuwaitis who were yelling, you know, you're going to be safe, all is good, or whatever, and that was her reply. So, I think it's a pretty cool pick. Not what you normally think of when you think of warriors, and if I just ejected out of a fighter jet in a wartime situation, I'm not sure that I'd be smiling like that. So, will you all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? We got a flag ready. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and have a seat, please. And why we have some of their attention back here, as always, our wonderful hosts here. They do great with the food and everything else. Thank you, Mission Barbecue. Big round of applause, please. And they always do so nice. They cater. They make me special, well-cooked bacon and everything else. They take very good care of me. Thank you. But appreciate you being a great host. And we basically have run of the place. They don't open until 11, so this is wonderful, and they get to all come in earlier than they would ever want to. So we'll starting up their AEW. How many of my AEW fans we got in here? There we go. Fantastic. Thank you as always. Nobody from Sawyer. Rick is 6 from Velocity. Javis, Alan, thank you so much. There we go. Thank you all. Nobody's here from MCM. Oh, Arrow Retirement. I always forget because Brian's on our team, but he's also a sponsor, so he wears all sorts of hats here in front. Thank you, Brian. And then, of course, we're partners. We're part of the Michigan Defense Coalition because everything gets done through teamwork, right? So it's working with the other nonprofits, and we actually, you know, you're going to meet the guy that kind of choreographed and started all this, the Congressional Codels, we call them, the quarterlies. But it's all of these organizations participating together, working together. It's a wonderful thing. I don't think I've seen that in any other state. So that's a good thing in what goes on here. All right, my team. Don't think we have a lot of us here today. If you're part of the executive committee, hands up. We got Tim, we've got Brian. Josh, you're over here. I think you can. Jamie, you used to be, so it's good to have you back with us. All right, and the land partners are not in town, and Janina's not with us today. I don't know why people don't want to brave the weather. I don't get it. Elected officials. Who do we have here with us? We have Dawn. I saw you walk in. There we go. Okay. Denise, back over there. And then the staffers of congressional folks. Put your hands up. Or elected officials. Put your hands up. Thank you so much. Already tell my team. All right. I always like to give a little bit of information before we even start talking on the topic that we're going to hit on today. Here's your interesting note of kind of relevant to what's going on in current events. So the Air Force was looking for a way to come up with a less expensive, precise weapon that they could use. And somebody came up with a brilliant idea. We have these laser-guided bombs and everything else. They said, let's take these 70-millimeter rockets that we use all the time. We shoot these rockets unguided, their lineage goes all the way back pre-Vietnam War and everything else. But let's put a little laser-guided kit on them and some fins that can guide them. So we came up with these little precision-guided rockets. So now a small little rocket pod with 7 rockets could use 7 precise little, with a very small warhead, ways to hit precise targets. It became the weapon of choice. The last time my A-10s deployed out of Selfridge, almost exclusively using this weapon. And the colloquial term the A-10s pilot, pardon my French on this one, they would actually call this on the radio. They referred to this weapon as a cat fart, all right? Because it literally is this very small warhead, it would hit. What they've done now is they said, okay, we need to figure out a way to shoot down these drones, like in the lower right corner right there. We have all these thousands of drones, but our AIM-9X missiles, our AMRAAMs are about $1 million a shot. The AIM-9 series nowadays is about $500,000 a shot. That's an awful expensive way to take down a couple $1,000 drone. So they've come up with an air-to-air version of this guided rocket now. So it has a proximity warhead for the little warhead that goes off and everything else, and it's optimized to be able to track and shoot down the drones. But the interesting thing is, if you look at this picture of this F-15E, 777, 777, all of a sudden, I believe they can carry over 40 missiles now that can shoot down drones in a single aircraft, as opposed to a maximum before of 8. And then of course it's a lot less expensive because these end up coming in at between $20,000 to $50,000 each, depending on who you read and what the source is. You know, exponentially less expensive. So this is a weapon of choice. You see it being used, you see it being adapted from helicopters to aircraft and everything else, primarily now in an anti-drone type of a capacity. And now you know what the term cat fart means too. So you walk out here with something today. But I do want to take a second is, you know, when we talk about the AFA, this just because...
Hi, I'm Doug Slocum, the president of the Michigan Air and Space Forces Association. I get asked a lot, why should I be a member? Why should I join? Why should we be a sponsor? I tell everybody they should be ready to do an elevator spiel. All right, so here's mine. Give me 60 seconds on the clock. Your Air and Space Forces Association has a rich history and was established by the very same pioneers who founded our Air Force in 1947. The AFA serves as our voice in the communities as well as on the Hill, advocating to maintain dominant air and space forces, supporting those in uniform as well as their families, and championing our heritage. The AFA empowers you with an amazing in-person and virtual network of air and space power experts, including our Mitchell Institute. They're the premier think tank of air and space power, and when they talk, everyone listens. To be completely transparent, we're at a crossroads. Our Air Force is the smallest, oldest, and least ready in its history. Yet every day, our adversaries get bigger, newer, and more capable. Our nation's Space Force is fighting for resources to do its job in the increasingly contested, ultimate high ground of space. If you have a dog in the hunt of national security, then the AFA is your way to make a difference. Education, advocacy, support is what we do and why we need you on the team.
All right. I actually did that kind of on a bet. When I came back from one of the board meetings, somebody was saying about how do we make our case about who we are, what we do. So I did that in my basement, literally shooting from the hip. And it's actually become used quite a bit through the Air Force Association. But I'm talking about membership as a lead-in to something that the Air Force the AFA just did. Like 2 days ago, we announced we have a new membership. Notice the word that stands out right there. It's a baseline, new, digital, free membership to the AFA. The goal is to go from what we were apparently 125,000 members to up to 1 million members within a couple years. And this is going to be one of the primary ways to do it, is because you can get your toe in the door. You can get access to everything from the Mitchell Institute. You can get the daily updates on the emails and everything. And now it doesn't cost anything. It's what we used to offer the Civil Air Patrol as part of a 2-year free membership that almost everybody in the Civil Air Patrol uses. Now it's available. I've made some posts on Facebook if you want to share that out, but literally it costs you nothing. You can check it out and plug into things now in a great way. And literally that came out just a couple of days ago. But our goal is the more people we have involved, the more voice we have, the more people that can hear the messages, and this is how we're going to help advocate for air and space power. All right, so let's jump in now to our subject of the day, which is the Medal of Honor. It's been in the news a lot lately, and I'm going to talk very specifically about that. But about the medal itself, it is the highest honor that can be bestowed to anybody who serves in uniform. It's also the oldest, the longest being presented medal, I'm not phrasing that correctly, It's been given out longer than any other medal that we have on our whole list right now. First one, pardon me, I'm going to look at a few notes today, which is very unusual. 1861 was the first Medal of Honor that was ever given out. You know, you can read the definition, but as you can imagine, it's for service, let's call it above and beyond. That's, you know, sacrifice in a way that is, you know, distinguishable from your peers in a lot of ways. And there are amazing men and women with stories of how they've ended up becoming Medal of Honor recipients. So I wanted to jump in today just a little bit. We've had 5 new recipients just this year. All right, so let's talk about just 5 of them, hundreds of ones. And by the way, there are some more that are actually in work that have been approved now this year. They have not been presented yet from what I understand. So I think we just have the 5, correct, Valde? We're going to keep adding to this roll. And there's a reason we're talking about the Medal of Honor, but I'm going to save that for our guest here in just a little bit. So let's start off with the story of this guy, Royce Williams. Royce Williams is alive. Royce Williams lives in California. Royce Williams is a pilot, so of course this is my favorite of the stories because I get to talk about a pilot. He's a Navy pilot, but we'll let it cross. It's all right. And pardon me because I am going to look at a few notes so I don't forget something about this. But this guy was involved with a dogfight in an F-9 Panther aircraft during the Korean War. Now, let me give you a little background. F-9 Panther aircraft was in service for a couple of years. Quite honestly, from a fighter pilot perspective, it was a POS, all right? A piece of crap. Not really maneuverable or anything else, but we used them, flew off the aircraft carriers for a while. And in, get my year right, 1952, I think we have it here. 1952, off the coast of North Korea, there was a dogfight that ensued. This was his second sortie of the day. So he's flying off the Oriskany, an aircraft carrier, second mission off the coast, and all of a sudden these 4 U.S. fighter jets encounter 7 MiG-15s. Here's the part that's very interesting with it. They were not North Korean MiG, they were not Chinese MiGs, they were Russian MiGs. We weren't supposed to be fighting the Russians. And all of a sudden they find themselves, 2 of the airplanes run out of gas almost immediately and have to go back to the carrier. So that left 2, Royce and his wingman. And very shortly after that, his wingman ended up running out of gas and having to go home. Now, in no particular order, this is the longest dogfight ever in history. This went on for 35 minutes. And I don't know, you watch Top Gun and everything else, even that is way, way wrong on how that really works. Dogfights are very short, they're very violent, they're very physical how it works when the airplanes are turning. This went on for 35 minutes. So he ended up ultimately shooting down 4 of the MiGs. 2 of them had to go home, which left 1 who finally he was able to run away from at the end of it. When he landed, had 263 holes in his airplane. That's how many times he'd been shot and was still able to fly. The rumor is that plane never flew again. They didn't even try and fix it. They just pushed it off the edge of the carrier, and he said he never saw that tail number ever again. And as you can imagine, he shot down Russians. Shh. So when he got back, he got to go debrief with all the admirals, the Secretary of Defense, and ultimately the President of the United States, who threatened him in such a way that basically he didn't talk about any of this for 50 years. Not a soul did he talk about what happened, ever, to include his wife or anybody else. It had to be a secret because we weren't fighting the Russians and we just shot down a bunch of Russian planes in this whole thing, and they didn't want to make the situation worse. Now, he went on with a storied career. He goes on to fly A4s and F4s. Yep, A4 Skyhawks and F4 Phantoms in Vietnam, and flies 110 combat missions in Vietnam after all of this. So he continues on with his career and ultimately becomes a captain of a ship. If you all know, it's a command ship like the Blue Ridge that we have now, but he's actually the skipper of that as one of his last assignments. But can you imagine being involved with something like this and you can't tell anybody for 50 years? Now, the only reason that it actually became public is because the Russians let it out. With the fall of the Soviet Union, here were their archives, and all of a sudden people are reading about, wait, what happened here? So suddenly this light got put onto it, and we had to acknowledge what happened, and his story came to light. He was actually given an award from the Navy, I don't remember which medal it was, but they put in there that he'd shot down an enemy aircraft. And that's how they phrased it. They didn't give any more specifics than that, but basically was, okay, there you go, there's your award. And then, of course, ultimately it got upgraded this year to the Medal of Honor. What else did I forget? Never before have there been 4 kills in one fight. By the way, there's 2 others that are quote-unquote probables. So there's a very good chance, odds are, he became an ace in one flight. That's never happened before. But once again, if you don't, the fight happened, pardon me, all this is the dogfight. Take the map, and it happened right off the coast of North Korea up here. So I believe the MiG-15s were flying out of Vladivostok at the time. That's the Panther on the bottom, the F-9 aircraft, and of course the MiG, and there's the young-looking guy right there pointing at one of the holes in the airplane after he landed. One of the 367 holes. All right, I thought I had the picture of him older. Distinguished-looking gentleman, I believe he was at the State of the Union. I wanted to say State of the State, that didn't come out right. Sir?
How common is this award? How many living recipients are around right now?
Living is a whole different thing, because of course most of them have deceased through the years and all that. What are we?
64.
64. Of course, we're adding to that roll before the convention, so we'll have a few others to add, but that's how many living.
Right.
And you'll get to, I'll have a video of a second of the one Michigan living Medal of Honor recipient, who we've had here talk to this group before, Doc McLuhan, so we'll come back to him in just a little bit. Okay, that's one. That's one story of 5 that I want to tell you, all right? These are amazing Americans, and that's why I said this is very uplifting when you look at this. This is a story not that well known here, but is very well known internationally, especially over in Europe. Michael Olis is his name. He was involved, he was at, let me get the FOB right, FOB base Ghazni when it was attacked. So he started, he grabbed his rifle, he and another, one of the soldiers, defending, they're running between coverage, trying to defend the base. And at one point they're fighting, and one of the insurgents comes around the corner wearing an explosive vest. He positions himself between the insurgent, who he, by the way, shoots 3 times and he still keeps coming at him, and this wounded Polish officer who had both legs shot who couldn't move. The vest explodes, it kills Sergeant Olis, but saves the life of the Polish officer. There's actually a book that tells this story. All right, so if anybody wants to check this out, it's up here. I ordered it from Amazon and everything else. The interesting part, when you read the front cover, it doesn't say his name on it anywhere until you look at the back or open the book and read the book about Sergeant Olis. There are a number of documentaries that were made. Next one has it. One of which is down there in the lower left corner, which, one, there's a park named after him in Poland, but that is the officer whose life he saved there on the right, the distinguished looking gentleman, who named his firstborn child Michael, after Sergeant Olis, the one who saved his life. The uniform he was wearing when he died, they ended up making that teddy bear out of. So, I don't know about you all, but I think it's pretty cool. And that documentary is called The Teddy Bear for Michael. What else did I forget with him? I think that's the big picture with Sergeant Olis, but Americans putting their lives on the line. Roderick Edmonds, he was prisoner of war in World War II. There were 1,200 prisoners. He was the senior NCO of this group, so he was one of the leaders. And at one point late in the war, in early 1945, if I get my dates right, the commandant came out and he said, there's 200 Jewish prisoners here, have them out in front of the barracks in an hour. Well, when he came out, they were all 1,200. We're standing there. He refused to do that. The camp commandant was enraged, held a gun to his head, and was threatening to kill him. And basically he said, if you shoot me, it'll be a war crime or whatever, we're not going to. And he resisted. They ended up going back in and never did end up presenting the 200 Jewish prisoners to the Germans in that case. A couple weeks later, the camp was on the verge of getting liberated, as the Americans or whoever Allied forces were approaching, the Germans wanted to evacuate the camp. Well, he said, all the prisoners get out front, we're going to put you on trains or trucks or whatever it was. 1,200 people got out front. He turned around and said, everybody go back into your barracks. Was basically not cooperating with the Germans with what they wanted to do. They ultimately were panicked because they knew that the Allied forces were arriving, and they left, and all 1,200 lived because of his actions. So in his case, it was basically an act of resistance against the Germans as part of the prisoner of war, and Medal of Honor recipient just this year. Now, this is a unique one because it has to be the quickest turn ever from an event to presentation of a medal, which it can be measured in weeks in this particular case. And I've never heard of this before, but this is CW-5 Slover, who's an MH-47. Let's see the San Diego helicopter pilot stuff here. In Venezuela during the operation to take out Maduro. He was flying an MH-47, came under heavy fire. There were 10 rounds that went through the cockpit, unfortunately 4 of which went through his legs. He continued to fly the helicopter. He actually called out the position of where the machine guns were, positioned the MH-47, the Chinook, in a way that the door gunners were able to take out the threat, and continued on with the mission so that it was a successful mission. Not a lot of details to this story that I've read anywhere, other than all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, I believe it was about the time frame, even still on crutches recovering from his wounds, he's at the State of the Union, having been a recipient of the Medal of Honor. There, that's an MH-47, if y'all don't know. It's a variant of what we fly out here at Selfridge. Special Operations variant. All right, and not my favorite for last, simply because he's a Michigander. So we are now going to have our second living Medal of Honor recipient here in the state of Michigan. I'm sorry, we do have, not going to, we do have. And I'll jump to the end because he actually went into the Michigan Army National Guard and became the Command Sergeant Major at Grayling, where he retired out of the National Guard. Now his story goes back to Vietnam. He was in charge of a group that was trying to take a hill near the Cambodian border. They came under heavy fire. 3 of his comrades got wounded. He made 3 trips through enemy fire to retrieve his comrades. And during this time when he was helping them all out, they find out that they're surrounded. So he fights his way up to the top of this hill against enemy forces and starts calling in airstrikes. Okay? At this point, he's wounded, grievously wounded. And for 7 hours, he calls in airstrikes around there, and ultimately, the survivors at this point survived because of his actions, and he is credited with directly saving 85 of his comrades on that hill in Vietnam that day. Just like the others, he was given different awards that ended up getting upgraded, and ultimately this year was presented the Medal of Honor. So now we have our second living Medal of Honor recipient here in the state of Michigan. So these are, I don't think I have any other pictures. There he is. That's the only picture I've seen of him, is the grainy one serving in Vietnam. We'll have to get him here as a speaker, by the way.
The Medal of Honor is presented to an individual that have gone above and beyond the call of duty in combat.
The Medal of Honor to me means that I fought with a group of men in an unbelievably outnumbered situation.
I flew the lead aircraft all the time, and that's the one that gets shot because you're coming in at the front and they shoot the living hell out of the lead aircraft. I changed aircraft 6 times the day I got the award.
I use the medal to establish the fact that, hey, I have been there. I've been shot 4 times in combat. I had 240 Marines, and we walked back with very few.
I was praying to the one above to give me the strength because I'd been shot 30 times. My back was broke, my ribs were crushed. AK-47 round in my right leg. But I prayed to the one above to give me the strength to go get my brothers. And he did.
We went in with 471 men. We came out with 37 under fire. And most of those that survived had been wounded, myself included.
It was truly a battle to the death, and we knew it. We accepted it. I even knew it and say, well, I'm not going to get out of this one.
I think about that day and the loss of my friends.
I would die for them. They know that. And I know they'd die for me. Because we almost did.
And some of them survived to live and actually wear the medal and tell about it. It's awe-inspiring, to say the least.
When I received the medal, it was still just a medal. My life changed that day. I took on a new life that I never expected to have. I was a farm boy from a farm country, a farm community.
The weight of the Medal of Honor on the individual that holds it is immense.
Well, how much does the medal weigh? Well, I can tell you there's some days when it's just unbearable to pick it up.
I wear the medal for all the brave soldiers that I served with, and I'm just so honored to be their representative.
The medal is weighed down with the exertions of better men than all of us. There is no rank. I don't care if you're a general or you're a private. You're all recipients of that high honor.
But in the end, it's our way of keeping the stories of our guys that need to come home alive.
I'm the caretaker, and I want to be there for the veterans. I want to educate the general public. I want to educate the general vets that we appreciate them, and we will not forget them.
I like people to remember me as a man of integrity, who always tried to do the right thing, even when nobody was looking.
I would like people to remember me as Jim Taylor, not Medal of Honor recipient. Jim Taylor, a father, a grandfather.
I came to realization one day when I received a letter in the mail. And I opened it up, didn't notice the address, didn't notice the name on the front, but I opened it and the letter went like this. My name's Austin, and you don't know me and I don't know you, but you saved my grandpa in 1969. Last week, my wife and I had a baby boy, and I get to celebrate Father's Day this Sunday because of you.
What I want people to remember about Jay Vargas is that Jay Vargas,
I believe in my heart that the Medal of Honor represents love. Because I'm not a brave man, but I did swim across that river and bring back my brothers. And it was because of the love in my heart for my fellow brothers that I did it.
Because, like I said, these are some amazing stories. Doc McClellan, we've had here before, and if you ever get a chance to listen to Doc, it's great because he loves to sing, and he will belt out a tune. He came back from Vietnam, was 30 years as a teacher, and it was just 2016, I believe it was, that he received the Medal of Honor. But what an absolutely fascinating individual that we get blessed to have his presence. And now we've got a second one here in Michigan, which is cool. But you know what? Here in Michigan soon, we're going to be studying history, and that's what we're here to talk about with our guest speaker. Now, as I get ready to introduce, and Valde, please feel free to correct me on some of this history, but I wish Ed was here, Ed Kaminsky, because I think this started as an idea with him talking with the Medal of Honor Society through the Selfridge Air Museum, and he liked the idea of, hey, let's see if Michigan can host their annual convention of the Medal of Honor Society. And he approached me and he goes, you know, I don't think we can do it, Odie, but I think you can. And I thought about it, I'm going, I said, okay, I like a challenge, however, comma. I said, I don't think I'm the person and I don't think you're the organization. I said, but I do know who I think might be the right person. And I ended up pointing him to Valde. So you're going to get to fill in the rest of the story from there, because I kind of lost touch with it once we flipped the booger on you. I mean, passed the honor to you, whatever. But ladies and gentlemen, former state senator, involved in so many organizations that I don't even know where to begin, the man, the myth, the legend, Valde Garcia.
Good morning, everybody. And most of that is myth, so don't worry about it. So I am glad to be here, and I'm glad for the opportunity to be able to bring this to folks' attention. How many of you have ever met a famous person? You, yeah, almost everybody. How many of you know what the definition of a hero is in your own mind? What is a hero? What is a hero? Sir?
You know, you're asking me, and I raised my hand, but hero is just somebody that I really, a mentor.
A mentor, someone you think about, someone that rises above the ordinary men and women of today's society. You know, a lot of people think of heroes as basketball players, movie stars, but the real heroes are those who've worn the uniform. Whether they are, you know, given medals or whatever, if you served your country, in my mind, you're a hero. Now, that being said, there are heroes and then there are heroes. The Medal of Honor represents the greatest award that our nation can give to those who serve in our nation's military. It is the highest award given for valor in combat with an enemy. And only 3,552 have been awarded. There are currently only 64 living Medal of Honor recipients. Michigan has produced 110, maybe 111, depending on how you define it. 110 Michiganders have received the Medal of Honor. And of those, only 2 are currently alive. Now, for me, as a young boy, I grew up reading about the military. I grew up reading about World War II, Vietnam, Korea, and all that. And in fact, I don't think Odie knows this, but I actually wanted to be a pilot. I wanted to be a fighter pilot. Now, my dad could tell me the make, model, and year of any car that was out on the road at that time. I was lucky if I could tell the difference between a station wagon, a pickup truck, and a van. That's what I knew about cars. But if you want to know about airplanes, I could tell you all about the F-9 Panther. I could tell you all about the MiG-15, the F-4 Phantom, the A-10. I knew all about that. And I wanted to be a fighter pilot. There was just 3 problems with that. Number 1, I wasn't good at math. You have to be really good at math to be a pilot. I wore glasses, which you can't wear glasses if you're going to be a pilot. And I was scared of heights. But other than that, I think I would have been a good fighter pilot. So I ended up going in the Army, learning how to shoot them down. No offense, Odie. Anyway, we have, as Odie mentioned, a historic opportunity. We have never had the Medal of Honor convention in Michigan. In fact, the closest we've ever come to having it here in Michigan is in 2009 when it was held in Chicago. So a couple years ago, a group of us went down to San Antonio and made a pitch to bring it here. Why? Because we believe that Michigan is a great place to host that event. Detroit was on the comeback, Michigan was on the comeback. We have over 450,000 veterans. We were the arsenal of democracy. So all of that, in my mind, led me to believe and others that we ought to bring it here. We were successful in our pitch. That event is going to occur on September 30th through October 3rd. It's going to be held down in Detroit. And here's what's going to happen. They're going to come in that first part of the week, September 30th, and then on October 1st, we have what we call a President's Breakfast. Immediately after that breakfast, about a dozen to 2 dozen of them were going to go out to the schools in the community, in the region. And they're going to share with young people and first responders the character development program. So you heard some of the recipients talk about character and what it meant and the burden that they had carrying that. And it's because each and every one of them, that day that they earned that medal, that they conducted those actions, they rose above the ordinary, everyday event in life that they had to do what needed to be done. Whether it was love for a fellow brother, a fellow soldier, a fellow airman, or they were just doing their duty. And they went above and beyond what they needed to do. And they are coming to Michigan. And in my mind, those folks are real heroes. That is a historic opportunity for us to be able to meet with them. So that night, after they come back from going out to the schools, we're going to hold a Veterans Community Dinner at the Grosse Pointe War Memorial. The following morning, they're going to do a memorial service. There are 64 recipients living right now. Of them, 70% of them, over 70% of them, are older than 70 years old. We have one that's 100 years old. We have a couple that are 90 years old, and the rest are 70 and 80. Some of them are struggling. You saw one of the gentlemen, I think it was Bruce Crandall. How many of you here have said, have read the book We Were Soldiers Once and Young and saw the movie with Mel Gibson? Okay, he was the pilot that flew in and brought in ammunition and took out casualties and stuff. And he went in numerous times. He and one other pilot received the Medal of Honor for their actions that day. That night, after the memorial service, because we expect we may lose some folks along the way, they conduct a memorial service to honor those who passed in the following year, or in some cases, those who have been given the medal who are now passed, and so they hold a memorial service for them. That night we'll be coming back here to Warren to the GM Design Center, where we'll have a dinner hosted by GM, and it'll be for our sponsors. And then last but not least, on Saturday night, we have the big gala. And that night, that event is going to be held at the Motor City Casino, and we are going to honor 4 Americans who have done extraordinary things. There are 4 awards. One is the Patriot Award for an American who has done things that, they're national level awards. Presidents of the United States have gotten them. Cabinet members have gotten them. And then there's the Bob Hope Entertainment Award for those individuals who go out and give of themselves to the troops. Bob Hope was one of them. Obviously, it's named after him. There are a number of country western singers who have gotten it. This year, we asked Carrie Underwood to be that, to come here and receive the Bob Hope Entertainment Award. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to make it. But we have someone that's coming in her place. I can't reveal who it is because right now we don't have that finalized and confirmed. The other one was we have the J.R. Tex McCrary Journalism Award. You've seen some of the folks that are in the news, whether it be Fox News or NBC, ABC, some of those folks that you see on TV every day or have been, one of them will be getting an award this year as well. And then last but not least, we have the Citizens Award. How many of you here have heard of Travis Mills? Anybody? A few of you. So for those of you who don't know who Travis Mills is, he's from up in Cass City. He now lives either in New Hampshire or Maine. He is one of 4 or 5 living quadriplegic soldiers. What does that mean? I had to say that slowly because that's a tongue twister. He stepped on a mine in Afghanistan. He lost both legs and both arms. And that man, if you've ever met him, ever heard him speak, he is phenomenal. He has tremendous spirit. He has given his life since then to go out and help other veterans. He's formed a foundation where he brings in other veterans to help them cope with some of the things that they've endured as a result of combat. And he's a tremendous individual. Unfortunately, we waited too long to get him to come here, but that's the kind of individual that we're looking for when it comes to being a citizen, giving a Citizens Award. And again, I can't tell you who the other person is because we haven't confirmed that with that yet. But if you go to the gala that night, you'll be able to meet all those individuals. And there's some really, really tremendous folks. I wish I could say more. I'd hoped to be able to say who they were, but I can't just yet. So with that, it's going to take a lot of money to hold that event. We believe it'll take somewhere between 1.5 and $2 million to bring in approximately 40 recipients. There's families, 5 to 10 widows, the society, and to pay for everything that we have at the Motor City Casino. They're staying at the Westerbrook Cadillac. We're going to send them out to various events. We estimate that it will cost somewhere between 1.5 and $2 million. So we are talking to major donors to help us with that, and we're doing fairly well. But we put on your table a couple of pieces of information. One is the fact sheet, which tells the major events that are going on.
On the screen, Valde.
Oh, thank you. And the fact sheet here tells you where it's at, when it is, who the key people are for that, and also the different awards that we have. And to get more information and donate, you can do the QR code. The other item I want to bring to your attention here, as I wrap up, is the power of 10. Now, what is the power of 10? Basically, we know that not everybody can give $1,000. Not everybody can give $10,000. How about if you give $10 and then share that with 10 of your friends and have them give $10? You know, we have 450,000 veterans in Michigan. If only 25% of those individuals gave $10, we would raise $1 million. And we would be more than halfway to our goal of reaching $1.5 to $2 million. So today, if you want to, and you're able to, click on that QR code, donate $10. If you do, and you tell me that you do, I have for you one of these Medal of Honor pins that I'm wearing right now that I will give you as a result of your gift. Now, $10 is not a lot of money, but I tell you what, as we talked about, it's a team effort. We get 50 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, veterans, so people who care about this event. We're going to raise the money that we need. Now, I will tell you that this guy right here, this young man right here, Adrian, he's 24 years old. He's a firecracker. That kid is amazing. He already has his pilot's license. He has a jet airplane that he co-owns with some folks. He's on a couple of major boards in the area. He's only 24 years old. He's out there raising lots of money for us and talking to all the folks. I can't do that. As a state senator, someone once wrote a letter to the editor and says, Valde Garcia is the worst fundraiser I've ever met. And I took that as a badge of honor because he said the reason is he's too busy doing his job to go out raising money. And I'm okay with that. But that was a long time ago. So again, folks, take those with you. If you can, spread the word. If you can, donate. If you can't, that's all right, just spread the word. And with that, I think that's about it. Oh, let me just correct one thing. So Odie is the guy that got me involved in this. We were at another meeting and he goes, hey, we're having a meeting on the Medal of Honor. If you want to stop in, come and find out a little bit more about it. So I went there. He was there. A couple other guys was there, including Steve. And there are a couple guys from the Detroit Public Safety Foundation. And they said, we want to do this. I said, well, this is great stuff. How do we help? And so I reached out to NDIA, AUSA, Women in Defense, and other folks and said, hey, do you guys want to do this? And they said, yeah, let's do that. But we don't have time to handle all the details, so Valde, you're going to have to do that. So somehow I got roped into it. I'm doing that, and it's about 4 hours a day that we're working on this kind of stuff, and we're more than 6 months away. So that's how it really got started somehow. And then Odie just said, hey, Valde, take care of this for me. I got to go take care of something over here. I've never seen him since. No, he invited me here to please spread the word. We have a great opportunity to bring our nation's heroes here to Michigan and to honor them and to honor what they've done for us. So again, thank you, and be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Is the gala the only event that's open to the public, or are all of these events open to the public, or what?
So the memorial dinner is not open, the memorial service is not open to the public. The sponsor dinner at the GM Design Center is only for our major sponsors and the group that's coming up. The one event the two events that are open are the gala, which is Saturday night, and the other one is the Grosport War Memorial Dinner. I'm trying to figure out, I gotta be honest with you, I'm trying to figure out a way to have another event for the general public so that they can come. My goal is to have Adrian and myself and, through your help, raise enough money that we can host another event to bring in some of the recipients. We're gonna try and bring some of the recipients to the Detroit Arsenal at a town hall. We're gonna try and bring them also to Selfridge to have a town hall. Part of the challenge is that the convention, the society reduced the convention from 5 days to 4. And that takes a lot of our flexibility out. Plus, we want them to come and see Michigan, come and see the city of Detroit, and we're working on one other item that if we raise enough money, we're gonna try and get some of them to go up to Frankenmuth and see, the store up there, the museum, try out some chicken and stuff like that. But that involves getting buses, to take folks up there and all that. Talk about expenses. We have 3 buses that we have to transport all these folks at once or twice a day. So it's a lot of expense, plus the hotels. Fortunately, the American Airlines is flying the folks in, but it's going to take a lot of volunteers. It's going to take a lot of help and a lot of work. So I'm working on it. Because, go ahead, I'm sorry.
What do you need volunteers and how do we volunteer?
So the question was, how many volunteers do we need and how do we volunteer? So does anyone here know Patricia Drury? All right, so she's the, I think, the president of the Daughters of the American Revolution chapter here in Michigan. But if you want to volunteer, send me a note, send me an email, and I will get your name over to her because we're going to need help at the door for the Grosport War Memorial Dinner. We're going to need a lot of help at the gala, and so we will need some volunteers. We're going to need volunteer drivers. We're going to need people to meet folks at the airport. So there's a lot of opportunities to volunteer.
You said to contact you, but where's your contact info? I don't see it on there.
All right, so my name is Valde Garcia, and it's valdegarcia@hotmail.com. valdegarcia@hotmail.com. And if you want to write it to gmail.com, you can as well. So I don't check that one as often, but I have that one as well. Other questions? I know you want to get out there in this weather, but.
I'll say about we can go to the gala and the memorial service, right?
Yes.
How come we can't go to the veterans community?
Well, here's the challenge with that. We're trying to get as many veterans to go to that as possible. The seating, because of the room at the Grosport War Memorial, is about 275. Okay, and then we have approximately 100 to 120 to 150 either recipients, their spouses, the host committee, the planning committee, and so that squeezes it down. I've got a team working on developing the criteria for who we invite. So if you want to send me a note, at Valde Garcia, I'll see what I can do.
Is there any way you can do it at a bigger location? So more people can come?
That's the challenge that we've had, finding the venues with enough room and stuff. And early on, we made a commitment to the Grosport War Memorial because of its location and history and stuff. But again, I want to do something, maybe Friday afternoon where we can get another venue, say Greenfield Village, where we bring in a couple of the recipients and open it up to whomever wants to come. But it depends on how much money we raise, because we're going to have to rent that and then put the word out.
There's a place across the street, it's called Jimmy John's Park. You can get a lot of people.
You mean down the road here?
Yeah, the baseball park.
The problem with that is that the distance from coming from Detroit to here, you lose 45 minutes.
And it's a weather problem.
And it is a weather issue. So we looked at all those things. Greenfield Village, in my mind, is probably the best venue, but because we lost a day, and because that adds additional cost, we're not there yet. But if I can do it, I will find a way to do it, because my heart is with veterans, ordinary people who want to meet these folks. That's what I'm trying to do.
Unless they even come from Miracle Park.
We actually thought about that. We actually thought about flying helicopters in and bringing students in and landing the
And I'm not sure if Ford Field will be available, I'm not sure how the line schedule is.
yeah. So September 30th is the last day of the baseball season for the Tigers unless they go on to the playoffs. And then they leave October 4th, so that's a Sunday. So I don't know if we'd have them, if that would be available. So those are the logistical challenges that we're facing.
All right, real quick before we let you off stage. All right, Mr. Fighter Pilot Wannabe. I don't know if you have one, but you have one now. Big Dan Bullet from us. Thank you all for everything that you do on so many fronts, Valde, for your friendship and for what you do for our community. Thank you. Last thing I have as we get ready to go. I think I have a pretty cool slide there. Here we go. So there was a picture in the video of Woody Williams. He is World War II. I actually had a chance to meet him here. He passed away a couple of years ago, I believe it was now. I knew he was a Medal of Honor recipient. I knew he'd been in World War II. I didn't know that whole story. I had a chance to meet him, and Doc got a picture of the three of us and everything else. You know, 2 Medal of Honor recipients. I got to take a picture with him and all. And it wasn't until I visited the World War II Museum, and they have a whole section about Woody and what he did in World War II. Mr. Flamethrower. Absolutely phenomenal story. And I got to meet him. And like so many times though, I met somebody and I didn't know the story until you get to know them. So I want to leave you with, if you have a chance to meet a veteran, if you have a chance to meet somebody, talk to them, get to know the story, ask them about that, because it might be the only opportunity you get. There are a lot of amazing men and women out there, and you only get sometimes a chance to meet them once. Take advantage of that, get to know people, and not to sound trite, but love on them a little bit, especially our wonderful veterans that have given so much. And on that note, thank you, Valde. Thank you all for being here and braving the weather and everything else. We will see you next month for our ROTC cadets that are going to come in and tell you about their experience and how they become officers and their trip to Japan. All right, so we look forward to that. Thanks.